So, as I'm recording this, it is about 6 months into the COVID pandemic. And I don't know about you, but I'm definitely suffering from pandemic fatigue. At this point, I just want it to be over. And it's so hard, isn't it, when we're going through things in life, whether it be the pandemic or divorce or the healing process or anything that we just have to endure. It's so hard when we're just exhausted and we're just done with it, but it's not done. And it's even harder when it's something like this pandemic where we don't have an end date. We don't know, okay, if I just push for this much longer, then it'll be okay. So what I'm going to share with you today are just some strategies that we all can benefit from when we're going through something that we want to be over, that we are over, but it's still going on. The first is just to be mindful of your mindset. When we're so focused on the end, we neglect to be where we are. We neglect to be in the present. And especially when we don't have a defined end, it's really important to not put your focus there and instead be in the day-to-day, be in the moments. Be careful not to assign any magical powers to this thing being over. I definitely did that when it came to divorce. I thought that once my divorce was final, once I had those papers in hand, that it would bring some magical healing powers. And surprise, it didn't. And that's really how everything is with us. We want things to be over, but even when they're over, life is still life, with its good and bad. Be careful not to spend too much time throwing yourself a pity party. You know, the victim mindset can be so tantalizing. It feels good. You know, you don't have to take responsibility for anything and you can just wail, why me? And often people will comfort you. But it's not comfortable to be in that state for long. It's a sense of powerlessness. And so it's a place you want to avoid staying for too long. Take appropriate breaks. When you're exhausted, everything feels overwhelming. And sometimes when you're going through something, you feel like you have to keep going, you have to keep pushing, that you don't have the opportunity to step back. But the truth is that taking a break isn't going to make it any worse. It's not going to push back the ending, but it will make it just a little bit easier to get through that next day. Unearth your agency. You know, there's a lot that you can't do sometimes when you're waiting for something to be over, but make sure that you pay attention to those things that you can do. That's the place to focus your attention. Because if you're only focused on what you can't change, well, then you're just going to be frustrated. But speaking of frustration, being over it is a combination frequently of exhaustion and frustration. And that frustration can actually help to combat that exhaustion. Frustration has some energy to it. So use that energy to make some changes in whatever little way you can that's going to make this just a little bit easier. Mark those incremental improvements. You know, whatever it is, it's still not over. You're still not to where you want to be. But I bet you could find some ways that you're closer today than you were last week. One day, that thing that you're waiting to be over will end. And until then, get busy living.